Hey, everybody. Welcome to tonight's Talks with Travis, part of the BICP Continuing Education Program. And tonight we are going to be talking about public speaking for mountain bike instructors. So my goal is to provide a few strategies for improving public speaking skills when we are teaching our skills clinic. We're going to look at each skills clinic that we teach as a presentation for tonight, because that's what we're doing, is presenting new information to our participants. We may not have a PowerPoint, but we do have a bike. So the things that we're going to touch on are the parts of our presentation where public speaking becomes very, very important. We're going to talk about the 5 P's of public speaking, as well as talk about some strategies to remove verbal tics or old speaking habits from our presentation. If you have any questions, feel free to send me an email at travis@icp.bike or reach out to me on Instagram at travelin.travis, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. So jumping into it, the parts of our presentation that we have where public speaking is going to be very important starts off with our introductions. Well, there's going to be some small differences between the group size when we're looking at public speaking in these contexts. But regardless of the number of participants we have in the group, the intro is the time for us to establish ourselves as someone of authority, to confidently take control of the group, and to start building rapport with our participants through, good eye contact and, a little bit of lightheartedness. When we're looking at small group introductions, if we have a group of 6 participants in our technical skills clinic, we definitely want to go through, get to know every single person. What's your name? Where are you from? And, maybe something else fun that's outside of the mountain bike scope, right? So it could be, what's your favorite food? What'd you have for breakfast? Anything that we can just use to start that rapport going, as well as talk or as well as have other things to connect on. That was a suggestion from Scott Givens, who has been, running coaching program for 10 years in Phoenix. And that's something he found that can really help just start to connect people. With these small group introductions, one thing that we'll want to be doing as the leader of those intros is to respond to something that the participants said. This doesn't necessarily have to be, oh, I also love breakfast burritos, which, most people do. But this could be, when we're talking about when the participant says their expectations for the course, like, oh, we're definitely going to touch on that. And that's not just, and that's going to show that not just that you have control of the group, but also that you're listening to what everybody is saying. That little quick response helps each individual person feel seen and feel a part of the clinic. When we're looking at big groups, we've got our 30 to 50 person weekend clinic event, and we want to start out that event getting everybody motivated and excited about what's going to be coming up. So these events, very often start pulling everyone together. The leader of the program is, maybe standing up on a picnic table and starting to build that motivation. So in there, we definitely want to include an introduction of ourselves, as well as a, huge thank you for the participants that are coming. Sometimes people are putting themselves in a spot of vulnerability to be learning mountain bike skills, and that needs to be applauded and appreciated. And we can do that right in the intro. That's going to connect with the participant right off the bat. It's also very good to have, especially in these, when we're speaking to a larger group, have the notes of things that that you need to talk about. This could be logistical things, so restrooms, water, different clinic locations, how people are going to be broken down into groups. Have all those notes with you and provide an overview for what the weekend is going to look like. As we continue down the skills clinic as a presentation, we have a template that's provided by the BICP, as well as tons of other outdoor recreation education programs, the Tell It, Show It, Do It, Review It model. And of course, the the telling it, showing it, and reviewing it directly apply to public speaking and presentation skills. So when we're talking about our telling it, it's really easy to drag on and try to get all of the information that we want, that we have in our heads, out into our participants, where making sure that it's concise, you're using few words that are all clear and simple, is going to be what gets your participant internalizing those words faster. If we're up there rambling for more than 2 minutes with talking about ratcheting before they even get on their bikes, we're going to lose their attention. And a big part of public speaking is maintaining attention and making sure that our participants are engaged. So we can do that by keeping it concise, keeping it clear and simple. Even when we're looking at the showing it portion of our presentation, this could be static demos on the bike, or this could be our rolling demo. And those rolling demo or static demos, we'll talk about that real quick, making sure our bike and body language match what we're saying is a huge part of our presentation. If we're on the wrong slide of a PowerPoint talking about something that is not at all what's on the screen, our participants are going to lose attention. And that's going to be the same sort of thing that happens if we're standing talking about the ready position, but still standing full upright in our neutral position with unevenly weighted pedals next to our bike. It's not going to be as cohesive of a static demonstration. And when we're doing our rolling demo, making sure that we're keeping focus on us and our body movements by not talking as we go through it. So moving into the doing it portion also has some degree of public speaking. We are talking more directly to our participants when they're actively practicing this skill, but we will want to use that positive language, that PCP format for providing those errors. And we can also confirm understanding with our participants at that time. And I think that's really important to do. And if there is a gap in understanding, or how we phrase something didn't make sense, we'll want to check in with that participant and rephrase it in simpler words, because then they will be more likely to be able to perform that skill. The reviewing it portion, wrap up of that skill, we're going to pull the group back together, quick review of the keywords, asking for questions, and some sort of call to action. That's definitely something that can get people thinking about when to perform these skills in the future. And oftentimes, this can be out on the trail, but I kind of like to do call to actions that can happen in the parking lot. So like when we're looking at our front wheel lifts, we can coach them to practice timing their front wheel lift over lines in the parking lot before anything else, because chances are that participants are going to see a lot more parking lot lines than one specific feature on a trail that they might not be interested in riding. So it's relatable, it's something that they're going to see, and hopefully their brain will be like, Travis told me to do this in this spot, so I'm going to do it right now, as a way to just keep practicing. The next part of our presentation that's going to be directly impacted by the quality of public speaking is times when we're asking people if they have questions. If we ask people to have questions, give a pause. Give them a second to think about that. And that's something that I've been working on too in these talks. Give people a moment to, do I have questions? They said this thing, maybe, and I want to ask a question about that. So give them a minute, fully listen to the question. And before you jump in and just start providing an answer, take a second and think about what you want to say. This is going to help make sure the answer that you deliver is concise and is accurate. We want to make sure that, and then after we, provide our answer for the question, provided we have an answer for their question, confirm understanding and just ask, did that answer your question? Or did that clear things up? Because sometimes it may not, right? And we may have misunderstood the question. So if we didn't answer appropriately or didn't explain appropriately, talk with that participant, ask them more questions about what they're looking to understand more. And then that can help us all get on the same page. And there are times in clinics where we're working with participants that have a lot of mountain biking experience in their own right and are really good riders in their own right. And they have their ways of doing things on a bike. And I want to make sure that folks don't look at questions or people asking questions as a challenge to your knowledge. These are really just opportunities to drive home additional concepts. So, for example, I was doing this NICA recruitment event out in West Virginia in Charleston with one of the teams down there. And it was super funny. So I was running kids through a basic skills assessment, real low key. And we were talking about the ready position and how getting centered on our bike and just deeper bend in the elbows and knees is how we can help, and weight in our feet can help us absorb features. And this 10-year-old, he must have been 10 or 11, just too young to be on the NICA team that year. I was talking about going over features, and the kid was like, my dad told me that I just get back when I'm going over roots and rocks. Why is that? And I had a moment where I was like, I didn't get defensive against the kid, but I got defensive against the dad a little bit. And so I took a second and just rephrased, if we have nice light hands, getting back won't really make that big of a difference for us, because we can still let that bike come up to us if our hands are light. And so that's what we pivoted to, instead of talking, or that's how I continue to drive points home for that particular question. So again, parts of our presentation where we really want to be focused on our public speaking, introductions, the tell it and show it and the review it portions are going to be the biggest parts of each individual skills teach. And then just be very focused on that when you are asking, or when you give your participants time to ask questions. Awesome. So I want to talk about the 5 P's of public speaking. And these are from speakandconquer.com. I came up with kind of my own list, and then they validated many of the points on that list, which was great. And one thing I want to throw out there that I forgot to mention at the very start of this talk is in high school, I used to do speech competitively. And so thinking about public speaking and how to best present and perform in front of a group was a huge part of my, and still plays a huge part in my coaching these days, but something that I have put a ton of thought into, and definitely have been the nerdiest person in the room on multiple occasions. So that's where my desire to talk more about public speaking comes from. So big things, so 5 P's, we're going to get into those specific P's in just a sec, but the big thing is start each presentation with a goal and a purpose. So each skills clinic my goal is to get folks to want to ride their bike again after that. And the purpose of this is to create an activity for people so that they can do this for the rest of their active lives. So purpose and goal, and everything that we're working towards in a clinic comes back to those goals. And of course, goals change between clinics. So if we're working on navigating drop style features, we're teaching roll downs and basic dropping and all of that, our goal is going to be get our participants feeling stable, navigating changes in terrain up to 18 inches with our basic drop technique. And everything just comes right back to that. And we can always refocus on that and revisit the goal when we are creating our lesson plan and going through all the steps to make this happen. So the first P, planning. Make sure that you know the general flow of your clinic. These are the skills that we're going to teach. We're going to move from this area for our front wheel lifts out to our skills area to work on berm corners. So you know your entire step by step, this is where we're going to be, this is what we're going to do when we're there, and this is what I need to make that happen. Part of planning is also becoming familiar enough with your flow of every skills teach that you're not going to need an entire script in front of your hands. So part of planning will be also creating useful notes or using the little pocket tool guides so that you can stay on track without without directly reading from your piece of paper. Part of planning also comes into knowing your audience a little bit beforehand. Pre-clinic surveys are excellent ways to make this happen. You can make them on Google, super easy, learn a little bit about their riding experience, a little bit about what they're hoping to do, maybe how they would handle some particular features. And all of that is all of that knowledge of where people are coming from is going to help us provide a better presentation and skills clinic for each of the riders. The last thing I want to touch on with planning is when you're teaching with other instructors. So co-instructing has its complications and challenges and benefits, just like any other form of teaching. And I do highly encourage you to watch our co-teaching or co-instructing talk, which is available on the website in the archive, Talks with Travis, or icp.bike/talks with Travis, and just scroll down a little bit. But with your co-instructor, have a conversation in advance about who's teaching what. So there's no fumbling in between speakers. There's no downtime or no instructors being taken by surprise. If participants are watching two instructors try to figure out what's happening next because neither of them know or neither of them had planned it out, it doesn't look nearly as professional as a smooth transition. Hey, you ready to talk about our next skill? And then, yep, and then jump right on up and start making it happen. Those fluid changes between instructors is going to make your participants fully see that this is definitely not the first time that y'all have worked together or that you've managed a group in this setting. The second P is practice. Run through your talking points in advance. I typically like to do it the night before, and this is going to help you ingrain the keywords, ingrain your flow of each introduction of a skill, and it's going to help it become more conversational. And we want to think about having all of our presentations be conversational, and what that's going to feel like. It's not like someone's lecturing to us. It feels like they're part of a conversation, and it feels like they're not just reading directly from a script. That's going to make participants feel more comfortable and be more receptive to the notes that you're providing. So run through your talking points and try to keep the introduction of your skills in a consistent format. This is super helpful, and this is something that I've noticed when teaching certification courses is we start off with naming the skill, identifying where it's used, going through our keywords and teaching points with our static demo in there as well, and then moving to our rolling demo. Skills teaches and introductions of skills get really long when we don't follow that exact format. So following the format is going to help people get on their bike sooner, which is a huge goal of ours. One thing I would also recommend is during some of your practices, get a video of your teach. Get a video so that you can go back, watch it, and it is not the most fun thing to do, but it is so helpful. Just like when we're riding a bike, we don't know what we look like on that bike until we see videos of it happening. I mean, I've gotten feedback, like when I was working on becoming certified to teach jumping, Shams kept giving me feedback. Hey, you're too far forward. Hey, you're too far forward. And And I was like, I don't feel that way. And then he showed me a video and it's like, oh goodness, yes, I am. And videoing your teach will help to do the exact same thing. It's going to help us build awareness about what speaking habits we have. That'll definitely come into play when we're talking about removing verbal tics. But it'll also help us identify if we're speaking too fast or moving too slow, or we may have phrased something in a way that didn't make sense out loud, but the way it sounded in our head seemed fine. And those are things we want to identify. And look at those as you're just air detecting and correcting yourself for for public speaking instead of mountain biking. It's just a different skill that we're working to hone. And just like mountain bike skills, the more we practice our public speaking skills, the better they get. Okay, so we've got planning, practice, next, preparation. And I look at preparation as more in the logistics side of things. So for a traditional public speaking presentation, that's like all of our computer stuff. But in a skills clinic, that's our cones, and that's our teaching areas and our teaching tools. What constructed features do I need to teach riding straight lines? Well, I definitely need my skinnies and my cones for sure. So having all of those logistic components in place will help you focus more on your presentation and more on the actual teaching of the skills clinic, opposed to having to run around and check on where things are, or to start a skills teach and not have all that you need. Another thing to double check on is to make sure your phone's charged, you have an extra battery pack if necessary, because especially if we have multiple instructors or we're working on advanced skills, having video and having the ability to continue to take video is super important. And make sure that there's space on your phone. I ran into that this weekend and had to delete a bunch of old videos I was shocked at the number of 3-second videos that I have of people performing skills from across the country, but they take up space. So make sure you have space on your phone to help provide coaching in that manner as well. The performance is going to be the fourth P. And that's the presence that we're taking when we get up in front of the group. There's this concept in public speaking, and this comes from competitive speech days. It's called owning the room. And to own the room, the goal of it is to bring everyone's focus onto you. And how we can do that is when we get in front of the group, take a second, make eye contact with everybody. Do like a quick scan all the way down, have a nice smile on your face so that they know you're drawing attention without having to gather everybody up. And being able to stand in front of the group quietly and allow for people's attention to fall onto you definitely exudes confidence. Like you're at home in front of that group, and they're going to see that confidence, and that's going to translate in how receptive they are to you coaching. So take a second when you get in front of the participants to own the skills area. We're also going to want to make sure that we're using eye contact, have an appropriate volume and tone. Just generally being aware of the sounds that are happening around you is very, very important, and adjusting to that when at times when it gets too loud or whatnot. But eye contact is huge. I mean, we talk about in our courses teaching without sunglasses on so that participants can see our eyes and connect with us in that way. And carrying that through, I've full on noticed when people are less confident about what they're saying, they're less likely to look me in the eyes. Like if we're comparing a YouTube mountain bike technique versus BICP methodology, the questions are usually phrased with helmets down, and it doesn't show confidence in what they're about to say. So by keeping eye contact as much as we can, that's going to help show confidence and make our participants more receptive to what we're saying. part of another big part of the performance is going to be maybe picking up energy levels a little bit more and really pushing that positivity. We don't want to fake it, right? We want to be genuine and authentic in our presentations, but there are times when we need to build people up more. And so be ready to do that as part of your performance. I like to think whenever I'm getting ready to teach with general participants, or when I'm demonstrating how to teach in our certification courses, I go into what I think of as instructor mode. And instructor Travis is a little bit different than normal Travis. There's a lot of similarities, but it is like a full shift in my mental or in my mental state, I guess. It changes the focus from, just being myself to, okay, here I am as an authority figure in this field, and we're going to work on these skills so that we can all get better and improve our riding. And that is something that I have to do intentionally, because when I'm teaching like my friends skills, it looks so different than when I'm working with a group of participants. Like, that's just mountain bike Travis talking, but in front of a group, that instructor personality and that instructor persona that we can adopt is going to make them feel more confident in you. And for me, it helps keep me on track a lot more. And I typically communicate better when I'm coaching actual participants compared to coaching with my friends. Cool. Another part of our performance is going to be, we often use guided discovery to confirm understanding. So this could be during a wrap up, asking when we'd want to use our ready position or when we'd want to ratchet, that sort of thing. And it's very important to allow a little bit of time for silence. That silence feels a lot longer to us as the person who's actively choosing not to speak, compared to how long it feels for our participants. And this is definitely going to give them more time to formulate questions and to think about what you're saying. We want to make sure that they have time to think about what we're trying to confirm. Excellent. Last P is going to be passion. We all have passion for cycling. There's a reason why we all do this. And it's because this is an activity that we love and we want other people to love it too. And let that come through. We don't need to hold back our love for this activity because we're in like a professional setting, right? We want people to know that we love bikes, and being like cool, nonchalant, apathetic instructor does not show that we love bikes. So let that passion come through, because it will help to motivate and inspire your participants. What I like to think about oftentimes in certification courses, we're working with instructors that have a lot of ideas, and when something is pointed, and usually something does get pointed out to me that changes how I think about a particular skill or changes how I think about a particular type of terrain, lean into that and be nerdy about it, right? Like I feel like the level that we are into of mountain biking reaches like nerd levels for mountain biking, and that's wonderful. Like, that helps show your interest, helps show your passion for this activity, and that's just like, people need to see that. People need to see why we do what we do. And I think too, another important thing to highlight is, if we were purely passionate about riding, we would just go ride our bikes. But we are also passionate about teaching people new things and seeing progress in our participants. And so oftentimes in my introductions, I usually talk about that point, right? So the amount of progress that we see in participants throughout a short clinic or a weekend clinic is very rewarding, and even like directly calling out why we do that, because we get tons of rewards from the work that we do. We see confidence, we see motivation, we see development, and those are all rewards that say we did a good job. And I think celebrating that with your participants is a good thing, because it helps to establish more credibility, and also helps to establish that you, through credibility, you know what you're talking about and you know how to help people, and it's something that you're into. Like, that is huge. Cool. So to recap our 5 P's, we've got planning, practice, preparation, our performance, and passion. Awesome. So moving on to the last conversation topic is going to be eliminating verbal tics, like ums and likes and all those filler words. And this is coming, some of these tips are coming from Scott Givens, from Mike Holm, a couple other instructor trainers, as well as publicationcoach.com, which just provided some solid solutions to fix these things. And part of why I want to talk about this is I was teaching a level 1 course with Mike Holm in 2019 or 2018 or something in Vermont. And it was a big group, 12 people. And I was a relatively new instructor trainer at the time. This was only like my 2nd season. And Mike has been doing this for an extended period of time. He's like OG on the mountain bike instructor certifier front. And I asked him for feedback at the end, which is something I do at every clinic. So I asked him for feedback, and he pointed out to me, and I didn't know that this happened. He pointed out to me that I would use ums and likes super frequently. I've been doing better at getting the ums out, and I know likes pop up for sure. But I had no idea that was happening. And that was a eye-opener for me. So the first thing that we're going to need to do is become aware of the verbal tics that we use. We can do this by recording ourselves when no one's around. Watch the video. We can also do this by talking with our co-instructors afterwards, and even prompting, hey, I'm working on improving my public speaking. Let me know what you notice about that, right? Because we'll check in with co-instructors about demos, like, hey, did that manual look good? Or did I need to change anything? Did you see everything? And that, but we rarely check in about public speaking, which is, like 50% of what we're doing in front of the group. So watch yourself in a video and make note of verbal tics. Talk with other coaches, ask them what they saw and heard, and try to start to identify what causes those to come up. For me, it's typically when I am dehydrated or tired or hungry. Those are times that my brain isn't working at the rate that I want it to be. And so I feel the need to fill in these silences while I'm actively speaking. So identify where it's coming from and identify what is happening, so we can build awareness around it. And then for example, just like when I was starting to work on my manuals a few years ago, the leading with the heels, where we're lowering our heels so we can lengthen our legs easier, push that rear wheel under us. I didn't realize that I was pointing my toe until I saw a video. And then as soon as I knew that it's something I did, that brought more awareness to that part of my body, so I could feel when I was doing it. Same thing is going to happen when we are looking at verbal tics and removing them from our speech. So, actions to take. Prepare more. Become more familiar with the keywords, more familiar with your content and what you're trying to deliver. Because if we have that, not full script, but if we have our talking points more confidently in our head, and we're not as worried about hitting every single point because we know that it's all right there, we're going to be able to move through those introductions of skills a lot more easily with fewer verbal tics. Next thing to think about is slow down the rate that you speak. If we're trying to squeeze a ton of time or a ton of words into a short amount of time, we might jumble our words, which is going to lead us to backtracking and then making sure that we said the right point. And before you know it, our fast talking point that we were trying to make becomes a lot longer than if we were to just slow things down, take a second, plan out what we want to say. Another tip is when we are looking for words, instead of jumping into talk and fill those silences that feel uncomfortable but really aren't a big deal, take a deep breath and just focus on the question that was asked, for example, or focus on what point you're trying to make. Add some time. A little bit of silence is okay. The suggestion that I got from Mike Holm, which I think is a really, really great one, is replace those words and verbal tics with some sort of gesture. So, I mean, that could be, taking a deep breath as we're thinking about what we want to say. What I find myself doing most frequently after Mike pointed this out for me was I typically have my hand like this and just rest my hand on my bottom lip, which prevents me from talking because it doesn't sound very good when I talk like this. So that's typically what I do. When I feel that I'm searching for words, it started out intentionally and now it just shifted to this is just I need to think and figure out what I want to say. Whatever that gesture could be, it's entirely up to you. You can get some like wizard hands going, or I think Mike does like a gesture like, wait a minute. And what I feel that does is it takes the nervous energy that causes verbal tics and directs it to a different part of the body so that we aren't saying and like and nearly as much. And the last part that I want you to keep in mind with when it comes to eliminating verbal tics is these patterns have been built up in us for years, decades, potentially, right? So be patient with yourself. Putting extra pressure or too much pressure on yourself for saying is just going to cause more stress, but it is something that we want to try to work out of our speaking. So be patient with yourself, prepare a little bit more, speak slower, embrace sounds of silence, or replace that verbal tic with a gesture. Awesome. And I had a brief conversation with Scott Givens a little bit earlier, and he recommended there's a variety of public speaking classes out there. So if this is really something that you get really nervous in front of participants, go take one of these classes. And I think the biggest thing, he was a participant in some Toastmaster classes, and he thought that their methodology was very similar to the BICP. So we break it down. They have progressions. You increase the duration that you're speaking in front of the group, or focusing on different components of a presentation. Like, all right, today we're just working on intros, that sort of thing. So if we want to make our mountain bike demos better, sometimes we go take a mountain bike clinic. If we want to get our public speaking better, join Toastmasters, join a public speaking course. And those are just opportunities to practice. And even if it's things that we have to give a speech on, I'm trying to think about the last public speaking class I took in college. I gave a speech on like single-use water bottles or something. And it's not an area of passion of mine, but that forced me to really focus on structure, on methodology, and on creating a cohesive presentation compared to just talking about something that I love. So check out one of those classes. They can definitely be helpful. And public speaking is, I don't know, they always say like the biggest fear, or it's like a major fear of a lot of people. And through practice, awareness, and the 5 Ps, we can improve this substantially for our coaching. Awesome. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to send me an email, travis@icp.bike, and I'd be happy to answer them. And public speaking, I just want to leave you with like a little bit of motivation. Instructors that communicate clearly, present themselves in professional and positive ways can be super effective coaches. So not just do we have to be good riders, but this public speaking and communication component of the work that we do is so important and requires practice just like any other part of it. Awesome, y'all. You have a good rest of the night, and thanks for sticking around and watching.